I drew a cat picture, which I guess technically makes this my first cat video. I'll be talking less about drawing technique and more about the actual decision-making process, going from the idea to the final result, which is something that I think is the most challenging part of most artworks, and it applies just as much to digital as to traditional. The idea itself came from a photo. Usually I like to draw from the imagination, but my brain was pretty well worn out, and when you draw from something that already exists, it's just a lot easier. Plus, you can interpret a photo in a way that can focus on an idea or a story, or just on an experience. In this case, I saw a kind of story where the cat represents the tension between what you're afraid of and what you are hoping for, like the big leap. Can he handle it? Is it worth it? Is it too dangerous? Should he go back inside? That was a feeling I can identify with a lot, and I thought it was worth pursuing. I decided to start with a digital mock-up to try to sort out a few ideas to see if I could bring out the story and get rid of anything that was extra. I got rid of the colour since I thought colour would only add work without really enhancing the concept. Black and white would do just fine. I removed the door in the background because that just creates its own question of what's behind the door, what's hidden there, and that's just a distraction from the main story, which is about the cat and the ground and the wall that represents the space between them. I wondered if I should put something in the background, even just something vague, to make it look like I wasn't just being lazy. But it seemed like it was going to add work, which I guess implies that I was being lazy, without actually enhancing the story. And also having a big white space would create that sense of mystery. What's out there? The big question, is the leap worth it or not? Is the risk worth it or not? I definitely wanted to add some ground in, since that represented what the cat was aiming for. I also wanted to simplify the wall and turn it into one big shape. It shouldn't distract from the cat or from the ground, but it should be there to separate them and to emphasize the risk and the danger. Just as a compositional thing, the window felt a little bit small to me, like it should stick out more. In hindsight, I think it was just helped to create a visual bridge between the house and the white space, to make the white space feel more like a deliberate choice. In the mock-up stage, I just stretched the window out, but in the final drawing, I would actually alter the perspective to make it look like it had opened out more. I wanted the cat to be looking at the ground, and also wanted to make him look a bit younger, to add to that sense of risk. So I removed his head, shortened his body, and stuck on a head from a photo of him as a kitten, which could be slightly disturbing if you think about it too much, so don't think about it too much. I sorted out the final proportions and perspective on thin paper that I could trace through to the final sheet. I used a standard A3 size, but went a little narrower, just to strengthen that feeling of verticality. Then I had to figure out what medium I was going to use. Pencil was my first choice since I was more familiar with it than something like paint. Plus, the feeling of pencil seemed to suit the fuzziness of a cat fur better than paint. I was concerned about pencil because of what it can do to my arm, but most of the picture would require very little pressure, and I would make sure I didn't draw for too long in any one session. I traced the drawing onto hot-pressed watercolor paper, which was fairly smooth and had a nice feeling of quality to it. Then I started drawing. But I soon found that the texture was just a bit too rough for this particular pencil, so I ended up starting over again with smoother paper. I made a few adjustments as I went along, including adding a small base to the wall, just to make it look a little bit more believable. Once the basics had all been traced through, the rest of it was just about balancing and polishing the different areas to try to make sure they worked together as well as possible. A lot of the wall needed very delicate shading since it faded so gradually into white space. It was an interesting challenge to see how lightly I could touch the pencil to the paper. I was barely touching it at all. In the original photo, you can see that the wall goes gradually from dark to light. There are a couple of reasons for this, but one of them is that as you look up, you can see more of the shadow underneath each plank, whereas as you look down, you can see more of the highlight on top of each plank. This suited me fine because the end result was that it kept the attention more on the area on the ground as well as around the window, whereas the light part of the wall, at the base of the wall, was more similar to the white background and drew less attention. The photo also has the wall getting darker the further away it gets from the window. That's because of the shadow created by that part of the house. I got rid of the doorway for the final picture, but I kept the shading because I thought it looked good. It just helped emphasize the edge and to separate the wall from the white space. Another useful thing from the photo, which I hadn't noticed originally, was that the cat's face is reflected in the window. I thought this was a good symbol of that part of us that looks back and wonders if we should stay right where we are. So I kept it and made it a bit clearer. What I can't tell you is whether the cat took the leap or not. It was a long time ago and I just can't remember. Maybe he was too sensible. Sometimes the best thing to do is to stay right where you are. Then again, maybe he was just a scaredy cat.